Every one of the cars we've rebuilt has got more expensive, more difficult to work on.
Donald Trump just made a move that Bugatti and Ferrari did not see coming. Not a tweet, not a press conference, not another executive order about tariffs or trade deals, or any of the policies the automotive world has been tracking. This is something different, something more direct.
You're joking. No! And more rare.
Something that lands right at the center of everything Matt Armstrong has been fighting for since the day he bought a crashed Bugatti on Copart and refused to accept the manufacturer's verdict on what he was, and was not allowed to do with it. The Repair Act just advanced to full congressional committee consideration. The bill that codifies in U.S. federal law exactly what the EU Right to Repair Directive is about to make law in Europe. The bill that the largest small business lobby in the United States says 89% of its members support, making it a top legislative priority for 2026. The bill that a forgotten hallmark of the American dream is to be able to build, create, and repair your own stuff is being pushed into political mainstream by a wave of populist energy that Donald Trump's own economic agenda helped create. And Bugatti and Ferrari are in panic mode because the walls they built against Matt Armstrong are not just crumbling in Europe, they are being demolished in America too, simultaneously, by two different legislative forces pointing in the same direction. Think about what the Repair Act actually does. Because the Right to Electronic and Automotive Repair Act is not an abstract policy discussion happening in committee rooms that will take decades to produce practical results. It is a specific, detailed, targeted piece of legislation that addresses the exact mechanisms that Bugatti and Ferrari use against Matt Armstrong with the exact specificity that makes manufacturers nervous. It addresses parts pairing, the practice of requiring replacement components to be matched to devices using proprietary manufacturer software. The practice that makes a Bugatti hybrid battery controller module replaceable only through Bugatti's authorized network. The practice that makes a Ferrari 296 GTB's hybrid system failure message say, go to dealer rather than call any competent mechanic. Parts pairing, the most effective repair barrier in the modern automotive world. And the Repair Act is aimed directly at it, with the bipartisan support of a political moment that Donald Trump's America First economic agenda has made more powerful than at any previous point in the right to repair movement's history. But before we go through exactly how Trump's political moment is reshaping the right to repair landscape and what that reshaping means for Bugatti and Ferrari in the American market, we need to understand the specific political environment that produced the Repair Act's momentum. Because this is not a moment that happened in isolation. It happened in the context of a presidency whose core economic message, make America great again, America first, the forgotten hallmark of the American dream, is to be able to build, create, and repair your own stuff, resonates perfectly with the right to repair argument. Because the right to repair movement is fundamentally a populist argument. It says powerful corporations have taken away something that ordinary people used to have. The ability to fix the things they own, with their own hands, at a fair price, without being forced to pay manufacturer control rates through manufacturer-controlled networks. That argument lands in Trump's America with a force that it could never quite achieve in Biden's America. Because Trump's base, the working-class Americans who work with their hands and own machinery and fix things themselves and resent being told they need a manufacturer's permission to repair something they legally own, are the exact constituency that the right to repair movement has always needed to reach. And Trump's economic agenda, whatever its other implications, has created a political environment where reaching that constituency is suddenly very possible. Now let us talk about the Repair Act's specific journey to full congressional committee consideration. Because the Repair Act advance to full congressional committee consideration is not a casual milestone. It is the most significant legislative progress that a federal right to repair bill for vehicles has ever achieved in the United States. For years, the right to repair movement succeeded at the state level. Massachusetts, New York, Oregon, state by state, law by law, building a patchwork of protections that manufacturers lobbied against in every state capital, while simultaneously maintaining that federal legislation was unnecessary because existing frameworks were adequate. And that argument, The existing frameworks are adequate argument was always most compelling when the most egregious examples of manufacturer repair restriction were happening to farmers with John Deere tractors or consumers with Apple iPhones. It was not tested against a specific, publicly documented 7.7 million views in 4 days example of a billion-dollar manufacturer locking a VIN and refusing parts and having their CEO make a public video about why an independent rebuild was impossible. Until Matt Armstrong made that example impossible to ignore. And now the Repair Act has advanced further than any federal automotive right to repair bill has ever advanced. In the same legislative cycle that the EU Right to Repair Directive is coming into force. In the same political moment that the largest small business lobby in the U.S. says 89% of its members support right to repair legislation, making it a top legislative priority for 2026, the tariff connection is a dimension of Trump's impact on the right to repair landscape that the reference channel's video touched on and that the full picture makes even more significant. Because Trump's tariffs on European imports, the 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum that hit European manufacturers operating in the American market, create a specific financial pressure on brands like Bugatti and Ferrari that operates independently of the right to repair legislative movement, but converges with it in the same direction. Trump's strong advocacy for increased tariffs means that manufacturers, independent repair shops, and consumers are all faced with questions as to what may change about the right to repair. The tariffs make European parts more expensive in the American market. More expensive parts make the cost differential between manufacturer authorized repair and independent repair wider. A wider cost differential makes the argument for independent repair access more economically compelling to more American consumers, and more economically compelling arguments for independent repair access create more political support for the Repair Act. Bugatti and Ferrari built their American repair walls in a world where European parts flowed freely into the American market at prices that made the cost of the barrier feel manageable. Trump's tariffs change that calculation, and the Repair Act is the legislative response to a calculation that changed. The Massachusetts automotive right to repair story is the American precedent that makes the Repair Act's momentum comprehensible. Because Massachusetts voters in 2020 supported expanding their existing automotive right to repair law to cover repair and maintenance data transmitted from a vehicle's telematics system, starting with model year 2022 vehicles. Although there was some backlash in the automotive industry, the Massachusetts Attorney General argued that federal regulations do not preempt a validly adopted ballot initiative. A state attorney general defending a voter-approved right to repair expansion against automotive industry lobbying. In the same state where the first American automotive right to repair law was passed. That precedent, that specific demonstration that American voters will support automotive right to repair legislation in the ballot box when given the opportunity, is the foundation on which the Repair Act's congressional momentum is built. And Matt Armstrong's rebuild, documented in extraordinary detail for millions of American viewers who watch the manufacturer's repair wall being built and then dismantled in real time, is the most compelling case study for why that foundation needs a federal structure built on top of it. The Ohio gubernatorial race detail is a specific political signal that makes the right to repair movement's populist moment undeniable. Casey Putsch, an auto enthusiast and builder, whose platform includes the embrace of right to repair legislation, saying a forgotten hallmark of the American dream is to be able to build, create, and repair your own stuff. An Ohio gubernatorial candidate, running in the state that Trump carried decisively in both elections, building part his platform on right to repair, using language that is indistinguishable from the language that Matt Armstrong has been using through his build for years, the language of ownership, of the right to do what you want with the things you legally own, of the specific American resentment toward powerful corporations telling working people that the machinery and the vehicles and the equipment they purchased are still somehow under corporate control. That language is now in Ohio gubernatorial races. It is in the Repair Act hearings. It is in the 89% of NFIB members who support it. And it started, at least in part, with a crashed Bugatti Chiron per Sport in Miami, and a man from Leicester who refused to accept the manufacturer's verdict. The parts pairing dimension of the Repair Act is a specific technical element that makes it most directly relevant to Matt Armstrong's Ferrari 296 GTB situation. Because the hybrid battery controller module that is currently preventing the 296 GTB from starting is exactly the kind of proprietary software-dependent component that parts pairing legislation is designed to address. Oregon's 2024 law was notably the first to restrict parts pairing, the practice of requiring replacement components to be matched to devices using proprietary manufacturer software. Oregon